Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. It's always a joy not just to welcome you, but to welcome you to the presence that you have within yourself. At the very center of your being is the universal energy of all life. And as you come to know that within yourself, you come to know who you really are. My encouragement is you take the time today to go within and to know that presence. We're going to help you, particularly with the teaching and the meditation. I also want to mention that if you're able to join us, our picnic next Saturday, the 23rd, it's more than just a picnic. It's really quite an event. And this year it's going to be even more quite an event. If you're at all able to join us, I thoroughly encourage you to do so and to bring your good energy, because part of the event is each one of us bringing our energy to it. Let's begin. My dear friends, for the past 8 weeks in our Sunday service, we have focused on the Eightfold Path of Buddhism, prepping our personality self to be a better and better vehicle to express our ascending spirituality. These teachings have become a very solid foundation for us to do so. A good question, however, has arisen from these teachings. The question is, well, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? The answer is, now that the personality self has been prepped, we are now ready to focus on the ascending teachings of our spirituality. To do so, I will now focus on several teachings, what for many of us has become the Bible of contemporary Western culture, A Course in Miracles. This very powerful and provocative book, channeled by Jesus to Helen Schucman and William Thetford, is quite special for many of us. Also, I would like to invite you to extend an invitation to you to raise any topic that you would like me to focus on in subsequent weeks from A Course in Miracles. Please feel very comfortable to suggest a possible teaching. In today's first teaching from A Course in Miracles, I will focus on where our lives have truly begun, not as personality selves, but as eternal soul spirits. The teaching is entitled, Well, Who Made You, God? Rather than outlining it as I normally do, let me just allow it to unfold. So here we go. A comment people often make, especially to someone who seems to be somewhat arrogant and controlling, to someone who is bossy and always trying to dominate situations. The comment is often made, well, who made you, God? Who made you, God? Meaning, who made you to be judge and jury over what is good or bad? You probably know a few people like this. But for now, let's put that thought on the back burner. In 1882, an astute German philosopher by the name of Friedrich Nietzsche made a comment that shocked many people. In his book, The Gay Science, Nietzsche boldly proclaimed that God is dead. What he meant by this is that the Christian notion of God in the latter part of the 19th century Europe had become irrelevant to so many people. This Christian notion of God was in a sense untenable, actually unworthy of belief. And as such, this teaching led a whole new movement of New Age thinkers in Europe as well as in America to make God more relevant to the people at the beginning of the 20th century. You know many of these New Age thinkers. Joseph Benner, whose books we have been studying in Now Creations. Ernest Holmes in his classic work, The Science of Mind. And Rudolf Steiner, whose works we will be studying shortly. But let's fast forward to 1952, just 70 years after Nietzsche's proclamation that God is dead. In 1952, U.S. Anderson made even a bolder proclamation. In his classic work, Three Magic Words, Anderson proclaimed, "You are God. You are God." When Nietzsche said that God is dead was indeed provocative, but what Anderson said, that you are God, was much more intriguing, much more ready to consider. What I suggest to you is that both statements from Nietzsche and from Anderson laid the groundwork for A Course in Miracles, which was channeled by Jesus from 1965 to 1972, just 3 years after Anderson's proclamation that you are God. Thus, the first teaching in a series of topics that I will present from A Course in Miracles is the teaching, you are an idea in the mind of God that has not left its source. Many of you are familiar with this teaching. You are an idea in the mind of God that has not left its source. The teaching, while quite clear, does need to be unraveled. The first thing that needs clarified is, well, who's the you? Who's the you that has not left its source? This is where many people stumble right out of the gate. They think that the you referred to is their human personality self. They think the you that's referred to is their human personality self. And when they look at all of the low energy things that human personality self has done, they certainly do not feel like they are God. So, who is the you? Who is the you that is referred to as that eternal part of you that has not left its source? The you referred to is your conscious, eternal soul spirit. The you that has not left your source is not your personality self. It is your conscious, eternal soul spirit that has not left its source, and quite frankly, is able to return whenever it desires to do so. We'll do that in today's teaching. But that just raises another question. How many selves do we have? How many selves do we have? This question, how many selves do we have, points us in the right direction. In fact, we have 5 selves. If you're not acquainted with these, take some notes. Let's review them. First, you have the human worldly self that is composed of your life circumstances and how you normally show up in the world. Right now, you're showing up here on Now Creations. Happy to have you. Secondly, you have a personality self that is composed of your mind, your emotions, and your physical body. That tells your worldly self what to do. Your personality self has told your worldly self to show up. 10:30, Now Creations. These 2 selves the worldly self, and the personality self make up the outer you. This still is how many people conceive themselves, and neither of them are the you that has not left their source. To understand the selves who have not left your source, you have to go to the inner you. And for those of us who do so, we realize that we have three inner selves, two on the outside, three on the inside. The first of the three inner selves is your soul. Your soul is the individuating, organizing principle of your human life. I'll say it again. Your soul, the first part of the inner you, is the individuating, organizing principle of your life. In the best case scenario, your soul guides your personality self to guide your worldly self, to be the love of God in human form. Thus, your soul is the first part of you that has not left its source. But there's another part of you that has not left your source. The second part of you that has not left its source is the spirit. The spirit is that conscious, eternal you that is universal in scope. It's in everyone. The soul is unique in one. The spirit is universal in everyone. And in the best case scenario, your spirit, with its universal principles and values, is guiding your soul to guide your personality self, to direct your human worldly self, to be the love of God in human form. Your soul and your spirit are two parts of you that have not left your source. Well, that's a lot to comprehend right at the very beginning today, but, well, we're not done yet. So let's take a breath, and let's then move to our fifth sense of self. The fifth self, which is truly who you are, is the part of you that is still a part of the source. The fifth sense of self is that part of you that is still your source, which means there is a part of you that is of God. There's a part of you that is of God. Oh, yes, to access this part of you, you have to become very quiet, very still. You have to concentrate on your innermost identity. And when you do, you begin to clearly know and experience, well, that you are God. Yes, you can certainly get lost. You can certainly get lost in all of your other selves, especially your worldly self and your personality self, chasing this pleasure and that pleasure. But the fact of the matter is that you are of God at your innermost identity. Let's give a little more support to this identity. You know many of them. First, The biblical creation stories from the first 2 chapters of the book of Genesis, wherein it clearly states that you are made in the image and likeness of God, and the Spirit of God has breathed its energy into you. So, if someone asks you, well, who made you God? You can honestly say, well, God did. God did. Shall I repeat this? If someone were to ask you, well, who made you God? You can just nicely say, well, God did. This is the simplest and the truest answer. A couple of other examples are also helpful. When the Buddha was describing the power that lies behind the stars and all creation, he concluded each verse with saying, and thou art that. And thou art that. Meaning that the power that is at the core of the universe and of all being is within you. And then, of course, Jesus gave us that wonderful saying when he proclaimed in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, the Father and I are one. The Father and I are one. Thus giving support to Plato's statement that the most important thing in life is to know and become like the good. Now, with this background, with all of these hints, a lot of people still want to know 2 whys. 2 whys. Either, well, why were we not taught this? Or secondly, why is it so hard to experience this presently? Let's answer these 2 questions. First, why were we not taught this? The real answer lies in our distant metaphysical past, when we as soul spirits decided to enter the physical realm and to see if we could raise this physical matter to be a center of spiritual light. This occurred millennia ago, and it is often referred to as the fall of consciousness, of which Adam and Eve in the Garden of Paradise is an example. In current language, we call it the game of separation, wherein we dimmed the light of our inner selves of source, spirit, and soul, and simply had our personality selves and worldly selves with which to deal with life. Not so great. Not so great. Thus, the answer to the question, why were we not taught this, was because our ancestors, including our recent families, societies, and even religions, were still caught in the lower energies of separation, of fear, and of doubt and anxiety, anger, and personal unworthiness. How could God love us when, quite frankly, we really didn't love ourselves and felt unworthy because of these lower energies? How could God love what we did not love ourselves? And even when the great spiritual teachers like Jesus gave us that beautiful teaching of the prodigal son, when the father of the son welcomed that prodigal child back and said, he that was lost has now been found, right over our heads. Thinking that, well, it was a nice story, but it didn't really apply to us. We continue to be self-accusing, self-condemning, and unfortunately continue to feel unworthy. And sadly, very sadly, many religions reinforced this lower condition in life, even to the point of saying that the very source that created us could just as easily condemn us to eternal punishment. You can see clearly the problem here when you look at the 5 cells. So please listen carefully. The 3 parts of you that have not left your source: the source itself, your universal spirit, and your individuating soul, did not succumb to the lower energies of the world. It was only your personality self and your worldly self that had their light dimmed. The 3 big S's, source, spirit, soul, did not succumb. It was only your personality self and your worldly human self that had their lights dimmed. And please recall clearly that the you which has not left your source, was simply having the experience, the adventure of what it would be like if your light was dimmed in a physical creation. But you, the soul, you, the spirit, and of course, you, your source, have never left the safety and the security of your source. This great experiment of bringing spirit into matter, and with all of the pitfalls that occurred, is why we were not taught better until now. Until now, you have awakened, and now you know better. You are doing better. You're doing much better. Thus, we are now ready to answer the second question. Why is it so difficult to experience our oneness with the source? It's a good question. Why do we seem to vacillate so much? Doing so well at times and then just seeming to flop again? The simple answer, and the true answer, is we did not have the proper tools to experience the source deeply. We did not have the proper tools, or should I say, we did not have the proper tools to re-experience source. Many people who wanted to change did not do so because they had old, worn-out tools of spirituality. They had old, worn-out tools of spirituality that just do not work in an ascending spiritual growth. People continue to use the old tools of simply saying their prayers, going to church, and then often waiting for God to make things better. And if he didn't, well, that was God's will for them. We have much better spiritual tools. Let me suggest 3 of them. The first and the most productive tool of reorienting ourselves with our source, as you well know, is through meditation. But the lingering problem is that many people, even the people who desire spiritual growth, do not meditate regularly, or quite frankly, do not know how to meditate properly. And especially to understand that meditation is simply one aspect of our spirituality. Again, I invite you to call me if I can be of help to you. Without this better tool of meditation and its attendant spiritual practices, without meditation and its attendant spiritual practices, we will limp along. We will limp along, when in fact we could go full speed ahead. The second tool is joining with others who are on the same spiritual path as you are. We have such a spiritual community in Now Creations, but even here, some are still reluctant to enter more fully. Understandably, it does take time for us to feel comfortable with others and to overcome our spiritual shyness. Our spiritual shyness. Yet as we do, we begin to experience the encouragement and the uplift that others bring to us. Thus, I encourage you to enter more fully into the spiritual community of Now Creations, or with any other group that enables you to feel spiritually at home, and joining with others of like mind. And as an aside, as I mentioned at the beginning, the annual picnic of Now Creations on Saturday, August 23rd, it's not just a picnic. It's really an incredible experience of a spiritual gathering. And now the last point to be overcome in becoming one with the source. It boils down to this. We need to experience the source at the center of our beings. We need to experience the source at the center of our conscious lives. We need to be able to go within ourselves and to rediscover the source as our conscious spiritual center. Only you can do this. I can teach you. Others will encourage you, but only you can experience you. Only you can take the time to be quiet, to go within and experience that power and love that awaits you as your true identity. And I am so happy that so many of you are doing so, or you are experiencing the God presence as your presence. You and your source are reuniting. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. You're beginning to feel that you are what God is doing as you. One last comment. It's a simple thing, but something that's important. When you say to yourself, oh my God, where does your hand go? Oh my God. This is a pretty good place to look, to find the God within you. You have to go within to the sacred heart. In conclusion, we are off to a good start in establishing some basic teachings from A Course in Miracles at the very center of our lives. And yes, of course, we will continue to assist each other in doing so. But the next time, that someone might say to you, or you might say to yourself, well, who made you God? Please feel comfortable and happy to answer, well, God did. Who else could have? So let me take you into meditation and just give you a little preview, perhaps, of the teaching today. So rather than closing your eyes at the beginning, I'm just going to ask you to join with me in exploring the five selves. Now, first of all, just look at me. And this is the human self of Vince. This is where Vince is showing up in the world today. All of you are showing up where you are in the world right now. Here we are all together. It's our human circumstantial self. We've chosen to do this. The second self is the personality self. It's the Vince that you would know, or if I have come to know all of you. And your personality self has a mind that thinks, has emotions, and it has the physical body. And your personality self is what tells your worldly self what to do. So your personality self has told your worldly self, well, we're going to listen to the Sunday service of Now Creations. For most people, that's as far as they go. And they allow all of the other circumstances of their worldly self to pretty well take over. I got this to do. I got dinner to cook later on. I got a family. There's some things I need to get done today. Maybe I want to read the newspaper. I want to watch this event. So the outside circumstances have a tendency to take over, and the personality self is very compliant. In fact, it was the personality self that set up the circumstances in the first place. Nothing wrong with these, except for the fact that that's all you are. It's rather limiting. These are the outer selves. Personality self, worldly self. For many people, it's all they know. So let me now invite you to gently close your eyes and go within. And to do so, focusing on your breath and allowing your breath to be the conduit from the outside to the inside. Just focus on your breathing. As you move within, you begin to see identities that emerge. The first identity to emerge is your soul. It is your soul, which is the organizing principle of your personality self and your worldly self. It is your soul that tells your personality self what to do. That then guides your worldly self to do it. Would you simply acknowledge that? This inner you, your soul, is in charge of telling your personality self what to think, what emotions are healthy, and what actions you will do. I just said again, it's your soul. This is no mystery. This is the inner you. You're quite aware of it right now. That tells your personality self the better thoughts and emotions to think and have, the better actions to do, that then guide your worldly self to do them. Would you allow your soul to announce to itself, I'm in charge. I am in charge of me. Not the outside world, not what sometimes I've allowed to happen, but I am in charge of what my personality and worldly selves do. You have to stop here at your soul. Get a grip. Realize who's making the decisions. And then, of course, it's a legitimate question to ask, well, who guides the soul? In order to answer that question, you have to go a little more deeply within and realize that the very center of your soul is what we call the universal you, still you, but it's the spirit. And from the realm of spirit, You receive the universal principles and universal values. They're common to all of us. Right now, the spirit realm, with its universal principles and values, is shared among all of us. This universal spirit guides our individuating souls. That's why it's not that we do the same things, but rather we do them in the same energy. Would you just acknowledge the spirit, which is the realm of principles and values, such as oneness and love, that guides your soul, that guides your personality, that guides your worldly. And then we can finally go back to the source, which is the initial self-creating energy, the initial first self-creating energy. You can call it a lot of different things. Some like to call it source, others call it God. Some call it the void, the all that is. I like to simply call it consciousness. Now, this is the way it really works. This is the way it really works. This is the way it really works. The source announces to itself, namely you, through the spirit, that you are my love in human form. This principle from the spirit informs the soul. Yes, yes, that's what I feel. And that's what really works. Which then tells your personality self that it sometimes objects, but nevertheless, starting to listen then, which then tells your human self, you better get with it. This is the way. So the next time someone says, well, who made you God? You're ready. God did. Who else could have? And in the joy of that little proclamation, there is such a truth. So in that joy, that truth, let me invite you back to your breath. Feels pretty good being back in this breath, in this energy. Invite you to gently breathe your eyes open. Fully guided, spirited, ensouled, with a personality and worldly self. Being able to say, I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste.